What's up, comic book fans? Anchorpete here. I'm with my good friend Brian. Brian, happy Saturday night to you, my friend.
How you doing, Pete?
Hey, I'm rocking it. What do you got? You got like a Spider-Man shirt on
Oh
right
yeah,
there?
yeah. It's like Spider-Man, but it's Slayer, but it says Swinger. Wait, I gotta move. Which way do I gotta move? This way? This way.
There you go. Yeah, like
Slinger.
you're doing like swing like that, like
Yeah.
from yeah,
Swing.
cool.
Yeah, yeah.
Brian upgraded. He got a new microphone a couple weeks ago, and he sounded way better. And so I got the same exact mic, and hopefully this might sound like the most professional we've sounded yet.
Hopefully, yeah.
Yeah,
I
fingers
think you
crossed.
sound. I think you sound great. So.
Yeah, thanks, man. I'm also using an updated version of StreamYard. So it's like higher quality. And then I have Sherry's webcam that she just got too. So,
Nice.
we're
Very nice.
semi-professional tonight. Yeah. So we are here to talk about the 25th Marvel movie. That's ridiculous, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like I think we've said something like this before, but it's just like imagine telling your 10-year-old self that someday there would be 25 really good Marvel movies.
Yeah. Jesus Christ. I mean, not all of them I would say are really good, but on average, they are.
Yeah.
really
On
good.
average, I don't think there's any that are. I'm sorry. I don't think there are any that are actually bad.
Mm-hmm.
So
I agree. Yeah. Yeah. Even Incredible Hulk and like Iron Man 2, I don't think are bad. When you compare them to other comic book movies,
yeah,
I don't think
yeah.
they're that bad. So anyway, we're talking about Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. It just came out this weekend. Brian and I have seen it. We're going to do this the way that we do our MCU TV shows on Disney Plus. We're going to talk about how we felt about it. We're going to talk about the behind the scenes. What is different is we're going to rank it among the different MCU movies. And we'll also talk about how this connects to the comics, and we'll have some speculation. So you guys should know that once we get started, this is a spoiler-filled zone. So if you haven't seen Shang-Chi, go watch it and then come back and check us out. All right. So Brian, right off the bat, my first question to you is, did you enjoy this movie?
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely like the movie. Like I said, there is not a bad movie in the MCU.
Okay. All right. Would you say that it is, because we're going to get to the rankings in a little bit, but would you say that it is high up there for you? Or would you say that, like, it's not one of your favorites?
I'm smacking it somewhere in the middle range. Because I feel like this movie is the biggest departure from comics in the MCU.
Mm-hmm.
There's really not much that they kept, I don't think. but still, not that I knew very much going into it.
Yeah.
I mean, I was very
a lot.
Yeah, I was very surprised to learn that most of these characters are new for this movie.
So like Aquafina is new, right? Katie's new.
Yes. Yep.
And then like his sister is, I think his sister is actually in the comics.
Yes, but different name and different whole. Well, I guess it is a different name and a slightly different trajectory, I suppose. Okay. I want to. I mean, based on the end credit scene, it seems like it could line up a little bit with his sister from the comics, or I think it's a half sister actually. But the name is totally different. I don't think, the mom was a. I mean, right off the bat, I mean, Shang-Chi is not the son of the Mandarin.
No. Yeah, and they've totally changed the character of the Mandarin like dramatically too.
Yeah,
and that already came from Iron Man 3. But I gotta say that for me, like when you look at that movie, when there's this one scene where you have Wenwu, who is like the new kind of version of the Mandarin, and you have Shang-Chi's sister, you have this new character Katie, and you have Shang-Chi, and they're all together in one room. And I was like, oh man, that's why this movie's so good. It's because I like each of these four characters. I'm really into each of them. In particular, Shang-Chi and his dad. I feel like those were just like great characters. The actors did a great job. Super charismatic. Just I want to see them in every scene,
Yeah, and I'm always a sucker for the family dynamic, and I mean here it's a little broken, but it works. Sucks me in.
Yeah. Well, the family dynamic is kind of a good transition into the behind the scenes part because I did a little research onto the director of the movie. His name is Destin Daniel Cretton, and he's just done like dramas before this. He
Interesting.
just did The Glass Castle, which that had Brie Larson in it and Woody Harrelson, right? Good old Cletus Cassidy. Did you see a trailer for it before you saw Shang-Chi?
Yes, we did. Yeah.
Yeah.
And of course, my 5-year-old still wants to see it. And I'm like, oh man, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, who cares? He's seen like Aliens versus Predator 2, so Requiem.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah. I don't know.
Well, yeah, I don't know, but like he did Glass Castle, which is like a drama. He did Just Mercy, which is like a courtroom drama, and that had what's his face, Killmonger in it, right? Michael B. Jordan.
Okay.
So he's worked with other MCU people before, but he's just kind of done dramas, and I think that's why the drama portions of the movie, like where you kind of see the flashbacks with his mom and just like him growing up, I think that those are really strong. Where in other MCU movies they could have been throwaway scenes. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I mean, and the drama was definitely there, but the action scenes were really there too. I mean, the fight choreography is fantastic in this movie.
Yes. And you know what? That kind of brings up a bit of controversy, right? Because I've seen pretty much praise about this movie. Like everyone likes this movie for the most part. I have seen a couple of people say like, "Oh, well, they're comparing it to The Raid." And it's nothing like The Raid. Now, Brian, I know you're a big Raid fan, right?
Oh, I am a big fan of The Raid, yes.
Yes. I think that I saw the beginning of the first one, and then just shit happened, and I didn't finish it. But, like, it was pretty awesome. I think, for me, and I want to hear what you have to think about this, but, like, The Raid was so violent with, like, the kind of the gory kind of martial arts going on, and this was not, right? And so I think that The Raid kind of was more visceral, where this wasn't. And so I think
keep in mind that The Raid is I believe is R-rated. Both Raid movies are R-rated. Yeah. Yes, and the fighting and the choreography in that is a lot more brutal and a little more violent. I wouldn't say gory necessarily. Maybe, I don't know. But I mean, this is a PG-13 Marvel movie, and I think taking it with that lens in mind, I mean, the scenes were very quick. There's a lot of back and forth. It stands up to me. I mean, it was. I thought it was excellent. I mean, I guess I haven't really watched as many martial arts films as I used to, but I mean, it was perfectly acceptable. You know?
Yeah. Well, was there a particular action sequence that stood out for you?
Obviously the bus scene was really good. I thought, and the scaffolding fight was really good as well. Yeah, I would say those two probably, because they were kind of reminiscent of like Daredevil hallway fights, you know?
Yes, that's a very good point, and I agree with you completely. Those are my two favorites. I had seen a lot of the bus scene just like on YouTube, and I was thinking like, oh shit, this kind of sucks because it came out after The Nobody, and The Nobody has this real drawn out kind of intense fight on a bus too, and I was like, oh, this is gonna seem kind of lame compared to it, but then it was like really great, you know. This is kind of lame. I mean, oh, go ahead.
Oh yeah, no. It from the trailer, it made it seem like it was going to be a fairly short scene, but it was a pretty long scene.
Yeah. And this is going to be kind of lame, but like I brought my mom to see Shang-Chi because she lives here now, and like my mom like gasped on the bus scene, so like I could tell, you know, she was kind of impressed. You know, she was kind of struck by it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think for both sequences, what works so well is that there's so much going on in the periphery while they're fighting, and you'll have like a character just kind of knocked off, but it's not like dramatic. It's like just kind of casual where they're fighting and then someone just falls off a bus, right? Or they're fighting and someone falls off the scaffolding. And it like essentially highlights the danger, but it keeps it moving. It never like pauses. It's very fluid.
Yeah, and also they're kind of, you know, all those people are falling off of buses and buildings, you know, they're not, it's not graphic, so it's not like hard to watch or anything like that. You know, it's like a kid could see this movie, you know. I mean, there are some movies that I at times I'm like a little questionable about, you know, the age range for it. I mean, like my 5-year-old can absolutely watch this movie. He can hang.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I kind of wish that Pepper had gone with us because I think that she would have really
Yeah.
liked this.
Yeah.
I don't think that Sherry would have liked this because of the third act, and we're gonna get to that in a little bit. But
Sure.
before we talk about like the ending and kind of comic book influence stuff, I wanted to talk about the writer too because we were still kind of in our behind the scenes part, and the writer, one of them, his name is David Callahan, and he wrote the screenplay for the Dune movie with The Rock. Did you ever see that?
The Doom movie.
I said Dune.
Yeah, it's not like I'm like, wait, Dune, The Rock. No, that's the other wrestler guy.
Yeah.
No, I haven't seen that movie. I've seen some clips here and there, but I've never seen the whole movie.
Oh, okay. Well, he wrote that, and then he also wrote this screenplay called The Barrow, and that was the influence for The Expendables. So, like,
oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah. He did a rewrite of the first Ant-Man, and then he also wrote Zombieland Double Tap. So he's kind of like all over the place, and they pegged him to write the sequel to Into the Spider-Verse too.
Okay.
Yeah. So I mean, obviously he's got a grip for fantasy films and like, you know, kind of stuff that's like, you know, over the top. To me, I felt like this movie, I could kind of predict everything that was going to happen with a few exceptions. Did you feel that way?
Yeah, I suppose. I mean, I guess I wasn't thinking about too much about being shocked or surprised by anything. So, but yeah, it's a fairly telegraphed movie, I would say.
Yeah. Like maybe the way they did certain things, like that bamboo maze that would move when they were trying to get to the village of Tao Lao or whatever.
Yeah.
That was really cool. And that was sort of different. I hadn't seen something like that before, but it was just like, okay, the brother and sister meet, then the dad captures them. Then it's like they escape. Then the dad falls. Big battle at the village. It was like, you know, you could kind of predict every step that was going to happen. I think that like one of the things that did surprise me, I was not expecting Trevor Slattery to show up.
Yes, I wasn't expecting either, and I have like mixed feelings on that. Like,
okay,
obviously he showed up because I mean, before he showed up, there was a name drop of some American. I mean, some terrorists in America or people who want to terrorize America. Kind of assumed one of his names, the Mandarin's names, and the 10 rings, while they were kind of dormant, as like a figurehead, and I think that might have been enough. Like that's all he needed to do. I mean, this was a big thing about retconning that because a lot of people really hated that. I mean, myself included. I mean, part of me doesn't like it, but part of me is still like shocked at like the ass move that is. Yes. It's like you take the most famous Iron Man villain that someone might have known, just by name alone, but still they would have known it, and you make a twist like that, which is still crazy to me. So they absolutely had to address it, but I don't think they necessarily needed to bring Ben Kingsley in here. I mean, he had a line or two that was kind of funny, but he really didn't have much of a purpose.
Yeah, I actually agree with you, because that scene when Wenwu says when he talks about the Mandarin, like I felt like that was the most awkward. We're pausing for a minute just so he can explain what happened in Iron Man 3, and if I was anyone sitting at that table, I'd be like, okay, what is this guy talking about? Like, he's going into great detail, and essentially he's just setting up Ben Kingsley to show up later. And it was cool to like literally see Ben Kingsley, and he was fun, especially with that character Morris. But like you said, you could have just had Wenwu say something about him, and then that could have been it.
Yeah, I mean the whole little plot point were about why he's there, and almost like a jester kind of role. It's kind of like far-fetched, like
Yeah. For the most part, everything in this movie works for me. That was the one part where it kind of felt a little wonky, but I understood the whole thing with Wenwu and how he was so powerful and ruthless. And then, he tries to get to that village. And I think that with that village, they probably were implying that like he was already being called to it by the Dweller in the Darkness originally, right? Wouldn't you think?
I had a hard time figuring that part out. I mean,
Okay.
clearly he wasn't by the end.
Yeah.
But I think it could go either way because he said he was doing a lot of research on it prior, and he just wanted more than just what he had. So it's possible that he was being called. It's possible he just happened to stumble upon it and wanted to see because he had nothing else to do because he's been alive for thousands of years.
Yeah.
I mean, I imagine you'd get bored, you know?
Yeah, yeah. And when they established his power in the very beginning, I really like that. I really like that they had the rings be like kind of like bracelets on his arm versus like on his fingers. I think that was a really wise decision. You know, you mentioned the Mandarin a whole bunch of times, and the Mandarin had the rings on his fingers. They were saying that they didn't want to do that because it was kind of too similar to the gauntlet with Thanos, and it wasn't like as practical. Or I think that was a really great choice.
Yeah, I like that choice as well. I mean, like you said, it's a very big departure. I mean, the powers are all almost like element based, sort of the rings, and I feel like they sort of kept the spirit of some of it there, but it worked especially worked well for the martial arts aspect of the movie, I think.
Oh yeah, he was so cool. And then the guy who played Wenwu, Tony Leung, I mean, he just like was so charismatic. Like, I just want to go watch a bunch of movies that he's in. Have you ever seen any of his stuff before this?
I feel like I was looking him up before. I feel like I've seen something, but I can't remember what it is right now.
Yeah, he was in like the movie that was the inspiration for The Departed. It was called Infernal.
Oh, Infernal Affairs, yeah.
Yeah.
I've never seen the original of that. I've definitely seen him somewhere before, but I can't remember what it was.
Yeah, but to me, like it made so much sense that he finds, Shang-Chi's mom before he gets to the village, and he falls in love with her because she's actually able to defeat him, and that he like leaves the life behind, like all that backstory stuff, which they peppered throughout the movie. I really that was legit for me. I thought it was well done, and I was on board for all of it.
Yeah, no, I was on board for all of it too. In the back of my head, though, I couldn't get past that. This is a person who's done horrible, terrible things, and he just kind of like, I get that he switched, but it's just like, how do you, how does the, what was the mom's name?
The mom was Ying Li.
Yeah, or is it Li Ying? I don't know.
Oh, maybe I had a little dyslexia. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, no, because I think they pronounce their names the other way. Doesn't matter.
Okay.
I found it a little hard to swallow. Like this is like they knew they wouldn't let him in because they knew who he was and what he's done. But she still fell in love with him anyway. And I guess it's a little hard to swallow. It's like, oh, they met and they fought and they fell in love. I mean, he clearly wasn't leaving and coming back. Because on his initial trip there, his crew like dies. So
yeah.
This was all one meeting, essentially, I guess. And just to have a person to overlook all the shitty things he's done is kind of a little much, I think. He didn't do very much to redeem himself. He just said, okay, I'll stop doing that for a little while. And that's really all it was.
Right. That's a good point. Right. They could have had maybe like one flashback where like he was kind of like making amends and he was like going to a village or something where he had done evil and like kind of,
something.
I get you. Yeah.
I mean, that would have bloated the movie, I think, all at the same time, but.
Right. And the thing is, the movie itself does kind of feel long. I was thinking, like, is it the flashback scenes that make it feel long? I don't think so. I think the flashback scenes are all important, especially even when they showed Shang-Chi's mom get killed. Because when they got to that point in the movie, we're probably like almost 2 hours in by that point. And I'm like, oh, they're going to have this scene now. Like, I want to see the battle that's coming. But that scene was really well done when she went to go fight those gangsters. And then like more of them came in. Yeah. And then like when Wenwu went to go have his vengeance, I really liked that scene a lot. Where
he made Shang-Chi watch. Yeah.
Yeah. I thought that was really well done. And so I'm sitting there thinking like, is this too much? Is this packing it in too much? But it's not that. It's like in the third act when the Dweller in the Darkness comes out, I was like, oh, now we got to go through this whole thing. That's where it felt like it was too long. What do you think of that third act?
Yeah, the third act was a little weaker, I would think. I liked Wenwu better as a main villain or the villain that I did that the giant creature that space creature, whatever the hell you want to call it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just felt weird, and I felt it came out and they like defeated it like a little too quickly, so it didn't really feel like the threat it should have been.
Right.
So that final battle was slightly anticlimactic for me. Like I feel like the climax was when he was fighting his dad and he took the rings from him. Like that was the climax to me.
I 100% agree. Like I feel like if we could just have the battle between the two of them and they defeats the father and then that creature's not able to break out. Like maybe a few of those soul sucking things got out, but then that was it. Like I would have been totally satisfied with that. And like for him to have the rings, I guess the implication is that like, oh, with the rings and the power of the village, they could defeat this creature completely. But it just seemed like, oh, well, this village, they've been wanting to keep that creature away for so long, but they never defeated it. They've only captured it. Now he's able to like utterly destroy it. It felt like it was kind of too easy, like you said.
Yeah. And also a little weird because they literally blew it up, like, like Jaws,
right. Yeah, there's pieces of it flying. Right. Good point. So, I did you have anything else you want to say about it? Because I kind of want to talk about those post-credit scenes.
One more thing that I was very disappointed. I think in the trailers, I was very intrigued by the character. I think the name is Death Dealer.
Death Dealer, yeah.
And like that was probably the most disappointing villain I've seen in a movie, like in one of these Marvel movies, because it was really just a costume and like in the background, it really wasn't anything to it whatsoever. I mean, I understand that the character didn't even live that long in the comics. It was like literally 4 issues or something like that. Right. But still, like I was looking forward to that character. I thought it looked really cool. Or he looked really cool, and then it was just like nothing about it.
Yeah, dude, you're 100% right. When he got wait, that guy's dying. I was like, wasn't there supposed to be
like he didn't even do anything yet.
Yeah. He kind of gave me this vibe of like Tron Legacy when they had this character Rinsler, where it's like the badass that's like the second in command to the main villain, and it's like, oh well, you got to find out.
Yes, he just didn't do as much as I wanted him to do.
Yeah. So, I mean, I completely agree with you on that one. Otherwise, I think everyone was satisfying. Even the guy like Buzz Hand or whatever the hell his name was.
Razorfist.
Razorfist, yeah.
It was written on the car.
Right. That's a good point. No, he had that was very that scene in Avengers when the cops don't listen to Steve Rogers, and Steve Rogers says something awesome, and he's like repeating what he said. Anyway, post-credit scenes, man. That middle one was pretty freaking tight.
Yes. So yeah, the first post-credit scene was Wong coming in, and we didn't even talk about the Wong scene in the middle of the movie either, where he's fighting the Abomination, and it seems like they're like palling around, which I was very intrigued by. I want to know what's going on with that. But Wong shows up in the restaurant, and then both Shang-Chi and Katie go through the portal, and they're talking with Bruce Banner and Carol Danvers. And they're basically just analyzing the rings and what they are, where they came from, and they're just basically inviting them into the larger superhero world.
Right. I mean, there's so much to unpack with that. First off, it's Bruce Banner. It's not that like Hulk or Professor Hulk or whatever the hell he is. And then Carol says that she has to go handle something, which kind of alludes to something with her in space. Then besides that, he's still got his hand in a cast, which, I mean, isn't this a significant amount of time after Endgame now?
I don't think they've really given us a time frame, because everything that's said, every time period they've said, like there was a when Wenwu met the mom, it said like 96 or 98 or something like that. But 96. when Shang-Chi wakes up, it's his present day. That's it. Okay. And they absolutely imply that it's post snap and post bringing everybody back. So it's not really clear how far after it is, though.
Okay. Well, I think it's interesting that like he's Bruce now, which, I mean, that will kind of tie into the whole She-Hulk show because he's going to be in that next.
Yes.
And then I think Carol is in the Marvels next. That's like the next time we see her, right?
Yeah. Is that next year or is that 2 years from now? I think that's 2 years, right?
Yeah. I think it's further down the road. But to me, I didn't think that would be like in space. Be like the Marvels. I figured it was going to have Ms. Marvel and it would have Carol coming to Earth. But they were kind of implying that she had something in space. So
yeah, I mean, it could just be because they made that passing joke that she does this a lot. So I mean, I think that the Marvels will probably take place on Earth because I think Rambeau would be in it as well as Kamala Khan. So
that's who I'm forgetting. All right, here we go. They fucking zoom in on the ring, and it looks like the squiggly stuff that's kind of like in the Eternals trailer. And so I don't know if they were implying that like that's a beacon to the Eternals. What do you think?
Well, I mean, I'm assuming you got the Eternals trailer before this too. I think we've even talked about it before. They said the beacon that they were talking about was all the energy that came back when all the people came back. So I don't necessarily think it's related, and I think this was kind of a weird thing because they really didn't explain much about where the rings came from. They said they were just found and they just came on like an asteroid, and that was really it or something. Yeah. Comic version, which is very much like Green Lantern in a way.
Okay.
An alien crash lands on Earth, and the man who becomes the Mandarin, who does not have a name, finds him, and then takes the rings and kills him. And those rings are from a planet which I don't remember the name of the planet, but it's where Fin Fang Foom is from, and that race of like giant space dragons.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I'm thinking. It's got to be related to that, and I'm imagining that a second movie might have that. Okay. I mean, we've already seen a giant dragon. I mean, it's very possible that giant dragon is from that planet. So, although I'm not really sure how they pull that off again, because like I said, I thought the fight with, just a guy who does martial arts versus a giant dragon was a little anticlimactic. So I honestly don't necessarily want to see that again in a sequel. So I hope they would do something different. But I would like to know more about their version of where these are coming from, because many things, as we said earlier, many things in this movie differed from the comics.
Oh yeah. I'm really curious as to like what it was or dining room. Anyway, you want to do the ranking real quick?
Yeah, let's do it. You go first.
Okay. All right, I'll go first. So, damn it, I have to go find my.
Are we doing like a full ranking again, or just approximately where it is, or?
Yeah, I figured. Let's just read real quick where our list, and then where Shang-Chi fits. Okay, so
sure.
We don't have to explain every movie. Just so okay. 25, Incredible Hulk. 24, Iron Man 2. 23, Thor: The Dark World. 22, Ant-Man. 21, Captain America: The First Avenger. 20, Iron Man 3. 19, Spider-Man: Far From Home. 18, Avengers: Age of Ultron. 17, Thor. 16, Doctor Strange. 15, Ant-Man and the Wasp. 14, Spider-Man: Homecoming. 13, Captain Marvel. And here is where Shang-Chi comes in at number 12 for Mr. Anchorpete. And then followed by, and then I'll just go through the rest just so people know how I think. 11, Iron Man. 10, Black Widow. Civil War is 9. Winter Soldier is 8. Endgame 7. Avengers is 6. Guardians is 5. Infinity War is 4. Ragnarok is 3. Black Panther is 2. And nobody agrees with me, but Guardians of the Galaxy is Volume 2 is number 1.
Okay.
Did my computer freeze while I was saying that?
So my list, we always say this, the bottom is very similar. 25, Iron Man 2. 24, Incredible Hulk. 23, Thor: The Dark World. 22, Doctor Strange. 21, Captain Marvel. 20, Iron Man. 19, Black Panther. 18, Thor. 17, Ant-Man. 16, Shang-Chi. And then I have above that, I have, maybe I should, no, you know what? I think my next is Iron Man 3. So I may flop those. I'm not really sure. I have to think about it more. I only saw the movie today, so. Then 14, Guardians 1. 13 Age of Ultron, 12 Captain America: The First Avenger, 11 Far From Home, 10 Ant-Man and the Wasp, 9 Black Widow, 8 Spider-Man: Homecoming, 7 Civil War, 6 Guardians 2, 5 Avengers, 4 Infinity War, 3 Winter Soldier, 2 Thor Ragnarok, and 1 Endgame.
Okay. Yeah.
So, like we always say, the top is sort of similar with a few exceptions, and the bottom is identical, and then the middle is a big.
Right. But you had Shang-Chi a bit lower.
A little lower than you. I did 16. I struggled because I enjoyed the movie, but it's just I thought the third act was a little on the weaker side, and just because it was so different, I guess, from the comics. I feel it was the biggest departure from established comics in the MCU so far.
Yeah. And different from other MCU movies. One thing I thought was very bold, I forgot to mention, was that, like, I think you go at least 20 minutes without anyone speaking English in the beginning of the movie.
Yes, that's and that was a struggle for my son because he obviously can't read yet. He's 1.5. So I think he lost his interest a little bit right off the bat. But he stayed awake the whole movie, so that's good.
Did you have to like whisper what they were saying in the subtitles in his ear? Like real
I
quick?
didn't even bother. I think I attempted the first time. I'm like, oh no, this is gonna keep going. So no, I'm not gonna do this. I didn't want to be asking questions and then everybody getting pissed off.
Yeah. You're on your own, kid. Yeah. So if you guys made it all the way this far, I apologize for the gaps and shit. I will promise to do this in my kitchen always. I don't care what the rest of my family says. But I'm going to edit this shit out anyway, so this doesn't even matter. But anyway, Brian, thank you for talking to me about this movie. I think we're on schedule to keep doing What If on Wednesday, right?
Yeah, I'll be good for do the last 2 episodes. Well, the last episode and the new one on Wednesday.
The Doctor Strange one, and then whatever's coming this week. Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't watched it yet.
Oh, sorry.
It's all right.
Well, whatever. Just it's all about Mephisto. But anyway, so that was a fun time talking movie. As always, on the same page. But I think that we're both eager to see Shang-Chi come back in another movie, right?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
I would definitely go.
Try to end this before my computer freezes up another fucking time. Anyway, guys, thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you guys on Wednesday.